Okay, the meeting is called to order for the Lucerne Valley and Johnson Valley Municipal Advisory Council, and it's about 5 o'clock. So we'll start with the flag salute. So if everyone will stand, gentlemen, remove your bonnets. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and you may be seated. Testing 1, 2. Is that better? Okay, if you're deaf, you got to move to the front row. Okay, roll call. I'm here, Jean's here, Lorraine, Jean Fuqua, Betty. Okay, looks like we have a quorum. Okay, the next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Before we vote on that, I'd like to ask the board if they wouldn't mind if I do a little switcheroo here and move the CSA 29 report in front of the public comments. Okay. As Reese has another meeting he has to go to tonight on the other side of the high desert here. So does the board have any problems with that? No. Okay, so let's looking for a motion then to approve the agenda with the change.
I make a motion we approve the agenda with the change.
I second.
Okay, so we have a motion we have made and seconded. Okay, I'm hoping that everyone on the board had a chance to read the minutes of the last meeting. And so we'll be looking for a motion to approve those. The minutes. Okay, so we have a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
And seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, oppose? And abstain. Okay. Okay, so due to scheduling, we're going to go ahead and allow Reese Troublefield, CSA 29, to give us the CSA 29 report. Thank you, Reese. Oh, wait a minute, one thing before you get started. Remember this, ladies and gentlemen. He didn't write the ordinance. He didn't vote on the ordinance, okay? So before you beat him up too bad, remember, you're shooting the messenger, okay? So let's keep that in mind. Let's keep it civil. Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm happy to be shot up, so go right ahead. It's good to be with you, everybody, tonight. I started working in Lucerne Valley sometime in 2007, I think, in November, and I'm happy to be here 11 years later. I really do think of this as with a special place in my heart, and even though I'm not here as much as I was, I still feel a lot of heartstrings for Lucerne Valley and appreciate the way I've been treated here, so I'm happy to be with you tonight. Thank you, Roger, for moving me up in the agenda. I want you to believe this is real, so I'm going to give you a little background on why I'm going to stay here as long as it takes to answer every one of your questions, however long that takes. But at that point, I'd like to be able to leave because I manage 81 districts and I have another meeting in El Mirage tonight that's supposed to start at 7 o'clock, which that usually doesn't matter. I can be late a little bit, but there's a new field rep there today that I haven't met by the name of Christian Gunter, I believe. And his wife's in the hospital, and he just emailed me and asked me if I could cover that meeting for him. So I do have to try to be there on time, which is why I need to get out of here as soon as you're done with me. So appreciate the opportunity to do that. I'm going to get through my report first, and then I'll open it up to any questions or concerns people may have and answer those to the best that I can. We have some recent improvements in Russell Park that we're really proud of. We have a new flagpole there. If you've driven by, it's pretty easy to see. And some landscaping improvements that we've made throughout the project, and some bunch of new fencing, and some stuff that just another phased improvement out there. We have a grant in to get funding for a picnic shelter, hopefully within the next 12 months, to put kind of behind the playground, so we have a shaded area for folks to use. The cemetery, I always try not to joke about this, but everybody giggles anyway, has been busier the last 6 months. We don't know why, but people choose to use us or don't choose to use us. In the last 6 months, we've had 10 burials. So that's more than, we usually have about 10 or 12 a year. So we have a few more burials going on in the cemetery. Still working on the underground utilities project. As soon as I hear back from my boss, Jeff Rigney, about the current plan, I'll be asking Roger and for the board to be able to come out with SCE and do a presentation on what that revised project looks like. And I was hoping it would be tonight, but as of even today, I still haven't heard the final word. And so I need to give you at least 2 or 3 weeks notice. So as soon as I know, I'll let you know. But there is a project in the pipeline, and the scope of that project, I don't know enough about to talk about it, but I will as soon as I do. Solar project is going through the purchasing department, which would mean that we're going to have some covered solar parking over in the senior center parking lot, and rooftop solar here, and that's going to save CSA 29 a significant amount of money annually. CSA 29 did, through Lorraine's pushing a couple of years ago, initiate that process, and it turned out where it's going to help Big Bear and Joshua Tree as well. So Lucerne Valley and Joshua Tree are both going to end up saving about 30% on their annual electric bills, while at the same time getting infrastructure replacements like HVAC systems that are too old and need to be replaced at no charge. So it's a really good deal, as well as saving us a couple new televisions and refrigerators, I believe, for the senior center too. So it's a really good deal for Lucerne Valley and Big Bear and Joshua Tree. We are still looking. We have reached our fundraising goal for the June 30th Independence Day event. The reason why we put it on Saturday, June 30th, is for a couple reasons. Number one, it's much less expensive to put the fireworks show on if you don't do it on the 4th, and now even the 3rd. And so our fireworks this year, through the grace of Pyro Spectaculars, for the fireworks themselves, is $6,500. If you've worked on any of those things in any other community, you know like Big Bear is $85,000. So we get a really good deal from them and are lucky to have the opportunity to put that show on for that cost. We have Sheriff's Department estimates in the past have been upwards to 4,000 people in and around the park, and have really never had any law-breaking issues, fights, or anything like that. It's a really neat family night and something that we're really proud of. So that concludes. I guess I can go into the fee schedule because I know that's an issue, and try to answer questions before you ask them. Every year, the Special Districts Department reviews all of its fee schedules for all the different places that we charge fees for. The Board of Supervisors mandate to me, and everybody that works in positions like mine, is that activities and uses have to cover their own costs. So if you have a youth basketball league, you have to figure out that it costs $5,000 and there's 100 players, and so it's going to be $50 a player if I did the math right. If you have, if somebody wants to use a building and you estimate that it costs $15 an hour for someone to use that building, then it's got to cost $15 by the payee to use that building. So when I propose these fees, and we go through this at least once a year, and maybe sometimes once every other year, I'm always trying to propose fees and fee schedules that cover fees everywhere, because that's what I have to do. And the community, at the time we did this the last time, didn't like the fact that the fees were more exorbitant than they thought they should be. In fact, most people didn't want to pay anything to use the facilities. I have to say, before you ask me or comment on that, That's different than anywhere else that I work. There's no other place that in the county where someone has even said, we don't think we should have to pay to use the facility. Because everybody just knows that they have to. When that went to the board, from the schedule that we had proposed, the compromise was that the board came back with a compromise proposal that was talked about here, and that was passed by the board in plain sight, that said that local user groups, not just in Lucerne Valley, by the way, this actually ended up applying for every community that we oversee: Big Bear, Joshua Tree, Wonder Valley, El Mirage, blah, 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 and on and on. Community groups get to use, get 4 uses a year, which the reason why I think that was brought up was that it was a quarterly meeting. So your organization can have a quarterly meeting in a public facility for $10 an hour, 4 times a year. And then after that, it reverts back to the fee schedule, which is more than that. So recently, Frank, the relatively new manager here, told me that there was a couple of the people that wanted to use the building that ran across that, and were unhappy with that. And I'm here to answer what those questions or concerns might be based on the passage of that fee schedule, and also tell you before you ask that if I don't have any authority to set a fee that's lower than what the cost of something is, and the $10 per hour to use this building for is less than the cost. The way that got approved was the board made a compromise with the community and said, all right, we'll make it less than what the cost is, and it's going to be $10 an hour. It's not on me to say I support that. And by the way, it wasn't Supervisor Ramos either. It was the board. So it's not my thing to say, like, when they did that, I wasn't mad that they made that compromise. It's not my job to be mad or happy or anything. It's just that's what I've been told to do. So that's the current fee schedule. And any other issues with that, it would be the max, I guess, responsibility to report your feelings on that, and mine too, to my boss. And I would be also reporting it to Mark, and who's here to see it anyway, that there's additional concerns, and that you're back to we didn't even know this was existing, which I'm sure I'm going to hear, or we still don't want to pay anything. And my answer is still the same. I proposed that to the board when it came to me last time, and the compromise came back to me from the board that this was the new fee schedule. So with that explanation, now I'll be happy to answer anybody's questions and pass on any feelings that you have on the subject. I promise that I will.
Okay, we'll start with the board first. Reese, I just had one quick question. If you're going to be able to reduce your electrical rates by 30%, I think you might be able to talk the board into lowering the fee schedule to make up for the cost, the difference in cost of electricity. I know it would probably be minor, but any little bit would help.
Well, if I could answer that in a roundabout way, not a deceitful way, but it's a long answer and it's to a short question. Another thing that bolsters that, I'm not on anybody's side on this, but another thing that bolsters that argument, along with the savings on solar, is that the Lucerne Valley budget is in really good shape. And it hasn't been for quite some time. And the reason why it hasn't been is because of the property valuation decrease in the area. Lucerne Valley property valuation lost about 40% of the tax money that Lucerne Valley CSA 29 used to get, and we had to battle through that to keep the parks how they are and blah, blah, blah. That's turning back the other way. And I was going to also ask you if in August, when I have the final numbers, I can do a budget presentation to the MAC and to the community to tell you exactly where the budget stands after this fiscal year is over, and give you what the district fund balance looks like, which I'm not trying to act like knowing what the word fund balance means is rocket science. It isn't. But fund balance means that in your savings account here, the estimate right now is about $330,000. And that's the mandate that we have to keep about 25% of what the overall budget is. Well, we're over that. So one argument could be that the fee schedule, the fund balance is in such a shape that along with the savings in electricity, that and I'm not trying to make your case for you, I think there should be, in fact, let me say that, I think there should be fees. I think people should pay to use this building. That's my own personal feeling, and that doesn't matter in this argument, by the way. And it hasn't mattered in the past, believe me. But beyond that, the truth is that the budget, in this case, how much would we take in if every group that wanted to use this building actually used it and paid the fee? $1,000? I don't know, in a year? I don't know. So if we didn't charge anything, how much would we lose? $1,000? And how much is that worth the effort to implement it? I don't know. To me, maybe not. But that's not my call either. And also, again, letting people use something for free isn't something anyone does anywhere else. And that's probably what the biggest hurdle is. So, yes, the answer to your question is that the 30% is going to make the budget even better. And I want to say that budget number is a result of how hard the park staff work and how hard the administrative staff works here we don't have as much staffing as we used to have. So if you've run a business before, the way that you cut costs is raise more money or cut costs. And we've cut costs and kept the parks green and looking nice. And so kudos to everybody here that's had something to do with that. So, but I think your point's well taken. Yeah.
Do any of the board members have any questions before we open it up to the floor? No? Okay, by show of hands, those who have questions. Richard? Richard's first.
I have a comment. I believe that the cemetery ought to be separated from CSA 29's budget and be set up as its own district, or maybe as part of a district in this county with the other cemeteries. I always thought that it was quite unfair that the community of Lucerne Valley actually has to pay for a cemetery that is in use by the entire populace of the county. So I feel that's just a comment.
Do you have a comment on that?
All I can say to that is the zoo in Big Bear and the Park District used to have the same joint budget. And for purposes which seem similar to me, they were separated. I don't know if that case can be made that it's exactly the same thing, but it seems to me standing here right now that it's pretty darn close.
Okay, Chuck Bell on the back.
Yeah, Reed, just for clarification, if Mitsubishi wants to have an employee picnic at the park, do they have to pay?
Not if they don't want to reserve the park, no. Anybody that wants to use the park can come in and use it at no cost. It's a public park. If you want to make sure you have that space, for example, Mitsubishi wanted to use all of the covered picnic shelter area and have it for them. I think we had a wedding here. Gosh, we had something here last weekend, and it was, I think, $40. I think. I remember I talking to my staff about it last week. So they don't have to pay, but for instance, if Mitsubishi said they want to have a picnic here and they all show up and there's already somebody here that's in there, they can't kick them out because it's first come, first serve. So to own your space, it's $40, I think.
Okay, they probably account for 30% of your tax revenue, but that's a side issue. The casual baseball game, family wants to come down Sunday afternoon. They don't have to pay, right?
Absolutely not. But if someone has it already reserved, that person has right to it.
So reservation is what creates the cost.
Yes.
Okay. And another question, sort of off the wall. I don't know if anybody wants to use the arena, but if you need to soften up the ground, we have a lot of mulch sources we can go after. And we can get it just in for you.
Since I don't understand why that's funny,
And you don't know that there's a lot of
But the point is, if you need
we need to work on the arena. Is that what you're saying?
If that ground got softened right now, you wouldn't want an event there. Kids are going to collect mighty possibly on concrete. But if you want to do events or even lease it out to Apple Valley again, then if you want the ground softened up, give me a call, okay?
You can count on it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
an hour to use this building with a 2-hour minimum. So that's $40, and if you have $10 to use the kitchen, that's $50. If you go another half hour, that's $60. So what we would be doing is we would be strictly raising money to use this building. And it's a community building, and if we have to make that much, it's not going to get used. So then you have a building that will be not being used at all because of the fees you're charging, or that are proposed. Most of the organizations that use this building also support it. The rent diggers bought the screen, they help provide different items and stuff like that. And the garden club, the museum has the field out here. What about that? It seems like that the nonprofit organization should be able to use this building as a community building. The building was donated to begin with, and I'm sure that most of us agree that if they're unreasonable to charge that much to use this facility, when the organizations are as small as they are, all they would be doing is raising money to use the building. They would not be able to use it for the project that they're attending. That includes the garden club, who has provided an awful lot of the trees and stuff for this.
Okay, I think that's a very reasonable argument from the bottom of my heart. I want to answer that by saying one clarification. If we quoted $20 an hour for a nonprofit, for your first use, we were incorrect in doing that. So you made a mistake, and what you get is 4 meetings a year for $10 an hour. So that still doesn't make it makes your point. It's just a little bit less money. You still probably have the same point. It's still 10 and 10, and still 10 for the kitchen and whatever. But I think your point it should be directed more at the MAC, not that any frustration you have should be, but your effort should be through the MAC to relate the position you have with those points. There is a law of diminishing returns, where if you charge too much money for something, for instance, the Joshua Tree Preschool charges $250 a month for a student to attend. And we can only pay because it has to pay for itself, we can only pay the teaching staff the amount of salary that covers. And so if we want to, I'd like to pay the teaching staff more. But to do that, I need to charge $400 a month. And I can't do that because we've tried, and we're doing what you're talking about. We lose preschool kids. So we might get, if we have 30 kids, we might lose 10, but they pay more. We end up with the same gross amount of money, and we're serving less kids and less people in the community. What I'm trying to say is, charging too much for something and keeping people from using it is a silly thing to do. And what you're going to hear back on our end is, well, charging people too much, it's $10 an hour, and your first 4 times. And so, I mean, that's what you're going to hear back from our end. And so you might be saying, and I hate, because I'm not on either side, I really am not. But I think that point really would be better served by saying something you said at the end, which is nonprofit groups use the building at no charge because of the service they provide to the community. And then that would be the problem we're going to have there. And I guess it would be, somehow we'd be able to figure it out. I'd sit down with Mark and come up with something. But somebody would have to decide, the chamber wants to use it because they're trying to do a fundraiser for the Christmas event with the Roadrunners. Great. Somebody wants to use it because the high school band is going to Washington D.C. for a thing they won in some state contest. We really shouldn't be doing it for that, because what we'd be doing is using public money, public tax money, to augment a school district function, which it's not my choice whether we want to or not. That's something that isn't allowed anywhere else. So
Who sets the fees?
the Board of Supervisors.
This board?
This board makes recommendations to the Board of Supervisors who approves the fees, the recommended fees.
Yeah.
So we have to go to the Board of Supervisors to adjust these things?
This would have to go to the board, yes, and it will, and it does, can every year.
Okay, I would, as far as that goes, if you want to get together with a bunch of other organizations, write a letter to the MAC stating your case and what you can pay, then we can turn it into a petition, or we can turn it into a resolution to go to the Board of Supervisors for their consideration. Okay, so we do have a little bit of, I don't want to say leverage, but we do have a voice as the MAC board. So if you want to, if you come up, it has to be a good argument though, because, yes, the community built this building originally, but it still requires heating, cooling, running water, paint jobs every couple of years, new tables. I mean, all that costs money. So with a limited budget, I can understand why the Board of Supervisors is charging. If you truly are a nonprofit that helps, I'm on your side. If you're truly a nonprofit that's helping the community, I think there ought to be a break there. Whether it's $0, I don't believe it would be $0, but $10 a meeting or something, I think anybody can come up with that. Joe over here, I'll get you next.
My name is Joe Richards. I'm in my 35th year of volunteering as a road runner, a proud road runner. May the 7th, when we held our meeting here, we were handed this piece of paper that said, starting July the 1st, we would be paying $20 an hour with a 2-hour minimum for the use of this building. Within 15 minutes, I had an organization come to me and say, you have someplace to meet. The road runners do the Easter egg hunt. We do it out here. We do it out here mainly because there's very little grass in Lucerne Valley outside of this park. We do the Great American Worm Race. That's held at the school. The school does not charge us for that. We do, the seniors allow us to have our Christmas sign-ups and that type of thing. We do our tailgate trick-or-treat there. They don't charge us for that. The community Christmas party is held at the elementary school. We do photos with Santa, and the market comes through, builds us a throne, and the market's great. On top of these things that we do, the Christmas trip, the toys for the less fortunate, we furnish Christmas for about 310 kids every year. Now there's a lot of groups in town. Your churches will do for their congregation, your organizations will do for their organization, but it's only been the Roadrunners since 1976 that have taken care of the kids. Every 4th of July we're in the parade. Bill takes care of the worms at the training camp for the Great American Worm Race. Besides these things, we donate $250 every year to the science camp, $600 for scholarships. We donate to the fireworks, the movies in the park. We participate in the end of the school carnival at the elementary school. We buy $500 worth of supplies for the 2 school campuses before school starts. And we make a donation to the 6th grade end of the year trip. This is a lot of bake sales. It's a lot of cookies that are sold for that. But the Lucerne Valley Market, Mitsubishi, Anya, Chuck Bell, Jerry Byers, Scott Hurt, these are the people that keep the Roadrunners going. Now we're going to keep going. We're not going to be meeting in your building anymore. We have someplace else to meet. I don't know what we're going to do with the Easter egg hunt. But we feel like this park is ours, this building is ours, it's taxpayer money that supports it. And when Julie Bell used to tell me that the Easter egg hunt was a 45-second fundraiser. Because she said, Chuck will barely get the bags out there, throw those eggs, and they're gone. And I cannot see where we should have to pay a fee for those kids. Plus parking. Now there's a situation in here where you're going to pay $1 to park in each one of those slots. They're going to pay somebody $15 an hour to collect $1 from each one of those. I don't understand that part of it. Is that going to be here too? Because it's on my paper.
I'm not familiar with the parking charge, no, I'd have to look at it. I've never charged anyone for parking, and I don't know
Well,
about that.
that was a
That's what it
shocker.
says.
That was a shocker, but that's what
Well,
they're
correct,
gonna pay.
just a second, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong. If they're using the park and they don't reserve it and they just use it, they can just use it, right? And
You
that's
reserve
just-
it. I fill out paperwork every year. We provide CSA 29 with a $2 million certificate of liability. We follow their rules. Now, we don't have to.
Okay, wait, you're a nonprofit, right?
We're a 501c3.
All right, well, make that park one of 4 times a year to use it, right?
4 times a year.
Well, no, that's two separate issues.
We're not paying them 15 cents.
The indoor use
Oh.
would be the one subject to $10 an hour 4 times a year. But I think the point that Gene would be making is, if you want to use the building 10 times a year, then your first 4 are, okay, they're $10 an hour, $20 for a 2-hour meeting. But the next 6 are double that. And so here you have an organization who's trying to raise money as a nonprofit for philanthropic reasons, that's paying some of that money that they're raising to have a meeting in a building. And now, it costs money to have the building open, but at the same time, that, to me, I'm not on the Board of Supervisors, and I don't speak for the board at all, and I say that as humbly as I can. But the way this went down is, last time we proposed fees, the community said this, that went back to the board. The board responded with the 4 times a year, $10 an hour, and that's what was implemented. If the message is, we want in Lucerne Valley nonprofits to be able to use this building at no charge, that needs to be the message. And I wouldn't, it's not a place to fight it or support
Yes,
it.
it is,
So-
Reese. It is your place to fight it. You speak for us. This board, they are the eyes, the ears, and the mouth for Lucerne Valley residents. And we expect you to fight for us.
But Jeannie, you can't have an
My
employee,
name's Joe.
I'm sorry. Forgive me. I'm sorry, Joe.
I've been
I-
called worse by better.
I'm an employee of the county, and I can't be in a position to put supervisors, I can't go to a meeting and say, you're right, let's do this together. That's unfair pressure, and not my place to put that on any member of the board to support a community. And this is your job to do this, not mine, and I'm not here to take your side. I pretty much on camera have acquiesced to several of the things that people have said, and am taking a professional risk doing that. So all I'm trying to tell you is, if you want to accomplish this, how to do it. And that is to get the board to see your point, not this board, but who I think already does. This needs to go to the Board of Supervisors, because I can't do this.
2 years ago, was it the year before last this came up, and they agreed.
Last year.
Was it last year? They agreed that 501c3s would not pay for the use of the building or the park.
When that went to
Now,
the,
this
sorry.
year, it comes back and tells us as of July the 1st. And that's pretty much all right. The only thing we use it for now, for 21 years, we had our Bikers Toy Run over here. We don't do the Bikers Toy Run anymore. The only thing we use the park for now is the Easter egg hunt. We will make other arrangements for that. We're not going to be using the building any longer for our monthly meeting, because the $10, the $20 that you so nonchalantly take nonchalantly, will take care of a tailgate on Halloween. And we spend over $2,000 on that project for the kids. Now, there's not another group in this town willing to do for the kids what the Road Runners do. So we're not going to waste our money by giving it to CSA 29. I'm sorry, Reese, you won't get 15 cents from us.
Well, I'm sorry for calling you Gene, Joe.
I don't object to that at all.
I'm sorry about that.
Okay, you have a gentleman in the back with a, yes, sir.
I'm just curious, is there a waiver or a fee waiver for nonprofit organizations not to bring any of these organizations into public controversy but Alcoholics Anonymous, Alateen, Al-Anon, and Narcotics Anonymous, helping the community resolve the problem we might have. Is there an exclusion in this bill that excludes them from having to pay rent? I'd love to fill this room with addicts and alcoholics in recovery to help the community, but at a $10 and $20 an hour fee, that's not going to happen.
That's the case that needs to be made by you. You're making it right now to the people that would forward that through Mark to the board. It's a question. It's a fair question on both sides, though. Is when you're going to let anybody that's a nonprofit use a building anywhere, not just Lucerne Valley, at no fee, and that particular district is having financial difficulties, then it costs money for the doors to be open. And you can't say that it costs just as much for the door to be empty as it does to be full. It's not true. It's absolutely not true. And even if you try to make the case that it was, nobody at the county who does this for a business is going to believe that because it's not true. The point that you would try to be making is, can a public entity, not just CSA 29, partner with a community so much that it draws a distinction between acceptable uses at no fee versus telling the next, I'm not thinking of good examples right now, but where's the line drawn? So, and let's use Boy Scouts as an example. If Alcoholics Anonymous and Roadrunners and are allowed to use the building for free, is the Boy Scouts. Then you say, well, yeah, the Boy Scouts. Okay, then who's next? Where's the line drawn to where someone does have to pay to use this building? That's it. I'm totally understand your point. I hope you understand mine. There has to be a line where people that want to have can Chuck have a birthday party in here for his granddaughters for free? It's never going to happen. You're never going to win that fight. So there has to be if you think it should, then should your tax dollars, because your tax dollars are paying forgive me for using Chuck, he's never asked that, but for Chuck to have his granddaughter's birthday party in here, you're using taxpayer money for him to have a birthday party in here. But now where are you going to draw the line? Where are you going to draw the line to where CSA 29 uses taxpayer money? Maybe for the fireworks event. Would you want that? Would you want taxpayer money used for the fireworks event?
Well, let's not get on that.
Well, then maybe we should. Would you want it used for that? Probably not. And we don't use it. We raise money to have the fireworks event. We don't use CSA 29 money. But why not? I'm sorry, I don't understand that point. It's still taxpayer money that's augmenting somebody and not somebody else. Would you want Little League Baseball to have to pay fees for kids, or should CSA 29 taxpayer money pay for youth baseball? So it's free youth baseball. Wow. With you guys, and geez, now I'm getting my soapbox. I'm sure everybody in here that's old as me voted for Prop 13. What Prop 13 said was you weren't going to do that. That was the whole purpose of Prop 13. Was so that government didn't fund everything, and it was fee for service. And I'm sure if we try to, God, now I'm really getting emotional. I'm sure now if you try to abolish Prop 13, everybody in the audience will be going, no way, it's the greatest law ever. The greatest law ever is what said you can't let people use this building for free. That's what it did. And again, I kind of support what you're saying, by the way. But I think you're way over the edge in terms of emotion, in terms of, you're not right, you're just making a good point. Yes, ma'am.
I have a couple things to say. First of all, those who do not know me, I spent 30 years in Parks and Recreation. So I understand where you're coming from, kinda. Because there's a lot of things that CSA 29 can do to help this community. It is a community park. They can partner with groups and make it so that they can use it for nothing. I'm a member of Roadrunners. In fact, when Gene leaves town, I'm the new president of the Roadrunners. I believe that you're cutting our kids off with this money because of our Easter egg hunt. We end up with our 4th of July out here ringing the bell. we don't have any money coming in. You know, you're expecting the nonprofits like the Garden Club, the museum, to come up with money that they don't have, that they spend on this community, and you're asking them to take it away from this community, and I don't think they're going to do it.
I'd like to try to make one point to that, is that I've worked for the county for 34 years, and the things I've gotten in trouble for are trying, before the internet, and before Lucerne Valley knew what 29 Palms was doing, because they heard about it somehow. Managers ran these districts, and I was one of them. Not here, but in 29 Palms. And so if the Roadrunners come in and say, hey, Reese, we want to have a fundraiser in the park, a car show, and it's for the Christmas children's toy run. And you're sitting in the office with the manager, and the manager goes, gee, that sounds great. But we can't just let you do it for free, unless you ask us to co-sponsor with you. And then they say, well, then co-sponsor with us. So then they write a letter saying, hey, MAC, will you guys support the Park District co-sponsoring the car show to make money for the children's toy run? And they say, heck yeah. And then I say, heck yeah. And everybody's happy, and we don't have these meetings. But what happened was people started getting concerned that management, and this wasn't Lucerne Valley or 29 Palms or anybody in particular, it was just across the board, that management was letting, maybe, where's the line drawn? So Roadrunners is obviously one that you would say, heck yeah, let's do that. But then, fill in the blank. Little League Baseball comes in and they want to do it. Yeah, they can do it. Then somebody else wants to do it. Somebody else wants to do it. And then people started complaining, well, they partner with the Roadrunners, but they won't partner with us. And then the managers were left saying, well, we didn't partner with them because they were the high school cheerleaders, and they were doing a fundraiser here, and we had to pay $700 to clean up after them, and we don't do it with them anymore. And it wasn't streamlined. It was manager's discretion. I still wish it was manager's discretion, because it would be way easier for me. You don't think I support the Roadrunners and what they do? Of course I do. I pay money to the Roadrunners. I'll give you money right now for the worm race. I put my own money in.
You're late.
So late.
I'll give it for next year. But I've given money to everything here out of my own pocket. And I paid $150 for the band to have hotel rooms at the 4th of July out of my own pocket. I'm not asking for you to be thankful. I promise I'm not. I'm just saying I'm bought into this. But the way for this to change is for you to take it to the board and convince the board that there are certain things that this community feels strongly and the MAC feels strongly should be exempted, as that gentleman said, from paying a fee. You're going to have to delineate what those are and draw a clear line between what those are and what they aren't, because they won't just do okay, nobody pays. So
Well, Reese,
I shouldn't say that. I don't think they will. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't speak.
what
for
about
them.
the dollar for parking spaces?
Can I talk to you guys about that? I don't know anything about that, and we're not
Well, I
charging.
know it, but who put this together?
I don't know.
That's what got us off that.
Let me just say, I've never heard of that. That's ridiculous, and I don't know what that is. Yeah.
Okay, to keep order here, let's go raise the hands. The lady here was next, and then you, ma'am, with the glasses, you'll be after her.
Hi, I'm Maureen from the Chamber of Commerce. Last year, we had a Frontier Day at the park. We put in our application. They came back and they wanted us to pay a $60 event fee. We paid that no problem. Then they came to us and wanted us to pay the salary of one of the park employees that was already getting paid, because I assume your employees don't work for free. They wanted us to pay $187 additional to cover the cost of his salary. At that time, you were nice enough to waive that fee. But now this year, we want to have the event again. This year, not only is it the $60, it's the employee's fee. We were told that even though you had been a member of the chamber for many, many years, you no longer wish to do that because we did not pay our fee last year, is what we were told by Frank. So, and then now on top of it, if we want to have the event, we're going to have to give you a portion of our vendor fees. We're going to have to give you a percentage of whatever food that we sell. We're going to have to pay for parking. I mean, at what point do we just keep getting penalized? It's ridiculous.
Well, what some adjustments we have to make are something I've already acquiesced to too, and I need to talk to you about that. I'll do it right now, except I'd rather talk to you after the meeting or on the phone or whatever, or meet with you in person. When you start charging fees that cause people not to use the facility, and that should be, in a one-page letter, you can write that succinctly and say, you're going to charge, CSA 29, if you implement these fees, is going to charge people right out of here, and no one's going to use your public building. Now, you can't, I don't think it would be righteous or fair to say that nobody should pay a fee, but that's just my personal opinion, and there's people in there that don't agree. As far as your thing is concerned, if we have a staff person working here, scheduled to work on that day, then there are no staff costs, except for ones that are maybe remotely associated with having to come over and help do whatever you do, but I'm not throwing that in there. So if there's someone working here, you're right, and that's probably why I waived it last year, because we already had somebody scheduled on Saturday. But if we don't, and right now we're short-staffed, we don't have anybody working on Saturday, and so charging an associated fee on not necessarily on a case-by-case basis, which that's why I was disappointed that these things got taken out of the manager's control, is when it's on the fee schedule, and that's what is approved, and we don't charge it, I'm risking a lot because I'm not supposed to waive fees. I didn't really waive that fee, we just already had somebody working here, and I didn't charge it because of that. But I know right now we have 3 parks workers, and 2 of them have found other jobs, so we have 1 park worker, Zach. And so we don't have anybody working on Saturday. That might be why Frank imposed that. But let me suggest one thing. Until I get Frank good Lord. Until I get Frank acclimated to Lucerne Valley, if you have fees, scheduled things you want to do, it's easy to email me, and please do that, because I can't give you the facility for free, but we can make fair adjustments to what it appears some of the things that are on there that look kind of crazy to me. So, and I'll talk to you, as I did last year, more about that at your convenience.
Okay.
I'm good, it was answered.
Okay. Linda?
But I'm going to bring up the solar issue, which is another hot button issue, but this reminds me of that, in that all of our people tried to address the solar issue with the county in terms of principle and the approach so that we wouldn't have to fight every little battle and every little solar project that came. We got screwed, and we have to find every little battle. Now, this is exactly what's happening again. Every little cause, every little battle is coming up and getting fought here because the county is being unreasonable, inflexible, and refuses to see the point. The point is, we paid for this originally, we donated it, it's being paid for by our taxes, and people are quite resentful when there are 5 supervisors and all their staffs and all of that with their legendary salaries, their legendary perks, and all of that paid for life out of our backs, sitting down there saying this severely economically disadvantaged community has to pay the same as everyone else, and they have to pay, and they have to, and everybody then has to fight for their life. And that's just wrong, and that's why people are upset, and it's just wrong, period.
Hi, my name's Donna. I'm with the Chamber. I grew up in Lakewood, and to this day, you call Lakewood Parks and reserve a shelter, and you get to use that for free for however many people you like. And
Can I answer
we
that?
are on- what?
Can I answer that right now?
Yeah.
That with a municipality, or even the county can do it too.
Uh-huh.
The county could say you could use all this for free too. It's not that they can't say it. is that they haven't adopted a belief that you should. And so in Lakewood, for example, let me use Hawaiian Gardens for an example, because that's the one I know about.
Okay.
Hawaiian Gardens has a casino, and the city of Hawaiian Gardens gets $5 million a year of extra money that is not tax money from the casino. And so what they've chosen to do is put a lot of that money in for senior nutrition programming. So the city council decided in Hawaiian Gardens that we're going to pay for anyone who wants a senior meal to eat for free. Well, everybody around them goes to their meetings and says, why don't you do what Hawaiian Gardens does? Because they don't get $5 million from the casino. So that the answer to that question is, you can, whatever the MAC makes a recommendation to the board on, and the board agrees to, is what you can do. And I am not the one fighting that. I pretty much get in trouble for fighting it. But it has to come from the community through the MAC to the board, and then you might have to be willing, as Linda said, and I know it's a pain, you might have to go to a board meeting and make a trip down to the county to make your point. It won't be as good. God, now I'm telling people to go to a board meeting. I'm really losing it. Sorry.
That's why we came here to find out what we can do to fight these fees a little bit, so. No, but
Yes, ma'am.
right in the letter.
I have a question that's related to the staffing for CSA 29. And I know that we've lost a lot of maintenance and park workers. And we know that Zach is really overworked. When is that complement of staff going to be replaced?
There's a process when the two recent guys that quit or moved, got better jobs really, left in the last 6 weeks. And there's a process that the county HR system takes about 3 to 6 months to replace people. So in the meantime, Big Bear staff, which Big Bear and Lucerne Valley, because really I manage both places, have a really good working relationship. And we have Big Bear staff, which does not equal both of those guys, by the way. But I have Big Bear staff coming down here 5 days a week to help out in covering during that interim period.
So how many are going to be replaced?
The two new people, yeah. Same that I'm actually trying to add another one in the next fiscal year. So but your question is well taken. If Big Bear lifeguard, for an example, when 2 lifeguards quit in the same day, and we need 2 right away, we can't have them. It takes 3 to 6 months to replace them, and it's not. That's just something I have to grin and bear because it doesn't work. But because there's not qualified lifeguards sitting around somewhere waiting to come to work in the interim. But luckily here we have been able to have guys from Big Bear come down and help, and Zach is amazing. Let me say that too. So.
I agree, he's very good.
Okay, let's go ahead and wrap this up. We've got other things to cover tonight also. Thank you, Reese, for coming. Thank you for listening.
One more.
Okay, make it quick. One more.
I think we have a representative of the Board of Supervisors here. So it's not just on Reese to take the message back or the MAC board to pass a resolution. I think somewhere along the line, people have forgotten that the land in the park was donated, the trees were donated, the building was donated, the land under it was donated, the land over here was donated, the land back there was donated. And yes, things have to have maintenance, but that's why those of us who pay taxes, pay taxes. And I told Frank the other day when he sprang this on us, why don't you make a list of things that you need done? Our community is known for volunteering. The ice machine in the kitchen doesn't work. Hasn't worked for 3 years. Nobody's put it on a list anywhere to call somebody so that we know what needs to be done and volunteers can do it. This then reduces the maintenance cost. What we need to do is remind the supervisors, and Mark, you might want to carry that back for us, that this whole corner was donated. This building was donated. So,
And this community is dirt poor.
And the community is poor, but we have supported all of these activities as nonprofits. So if you could come up with a list, maybe, and post it somewhere, things might get done.
We may be kindred spirits. When the managers were managing these facilities in every location, we had the opportunity to, I'll use Big Bear football as an example. Big Bear Youth Football has to pay $2,300 a year to use the fields in Big Bear for their football league. And there's a lot to it. We got to paint their field, and it costs money and staff, and we got to oversee it afterwards, and it just whatever. So what they asked me a couple times was, hey, we want to put a scoreboard in so we can use a scoreboard for our football games, and we made a trade for the scoreboard was $2,500 and their fees were $2,300, and so they put the scoreboard in. It was great, and they did exactly what you said. But about 8 years ago, we were given strict edict that was no longer acceptable, and that we couldn't barter fees for it. It's not from Supervisor Ramos, but the Board of Supervisors, and it was a thing that ended any negotiation for trade negotiating, because, and let me be fair to the board on this. I never heard of anything like this, but Little League president is a travel agent, and travel agent guy says to manager, I'll give you a $2,000 trip to Hawaii if you don't charge us for the fields. They don't want people bartering for stuff, and even a who's to say that the manager should be making a decision that a scoreboard is more important to the district than the $2,300 was. I don't know. That they wanted to take that out of the manager's hands. So we can't do that anymore. So now when somebody wants to donate something and do something on park property, I have the dubious responsibility to say we'd love to partner with you on that. Thank you, but it's ours if you do it, and you don't get any credit for doing it. And I don't say it that mean, but it's not something we're allowed to do. So we're thankful for sure, but it can't be counted toward offsets. That's what the word is, offsets.
Reese, can I say something? I'm getting a lot of looks out there, so. Yes, I can advocate for you. That's my job. I wouldn't expect Reese to do that. As far as what Reese said about going to the board meetings is perfectly acceptable. They welcome you to come in, and they don't know what's going on out here sometimes and how you feel. So please, if you want to go to a board meeting and voice your opinion, do it. My suggestion, well, you can go to the video conferencing center during board meetings. I think your closest is Hesperia. It's a lot closer than going down San Bernardino. And they're all video conference, or regular board meetings. But I think that's a good idea, is to get a resolution. I don't like having to form a bunch of committees, but talk among yourselves. Pick some people that will come up with some reasonable solutions that you think will work. Get them to Roger, and we can put that in the form of a resolution, get it to the Board of Supervisors. And in the meantime, like I say, I will take this back to the supervisor. As stated, our supervisor, James Ramos, is only one of 5. If this has to go to a board for a vote on adjusting the fees, then like I say, he's one of 5. He's probably not going to get that through based on past history. So let's see what we can do to make adjustments that will work for special districts, and it'll work for the county and hopefully make the community happy. So let's do that first if you can, and get it to Roger as fast as you can, and I will get it to the supervisor as fast as I can.
Okay, I'm going to wrap that up so we can continue.
I'm appreciative that
Thanks.
you allowed me to be here and address you and answer your questions, and thank you for being very kind and fair to me. So I appreciate being here tonight with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Reese. Okay, back to our normal agenda schedule. Now's the time for public comments. Members of the public wishing to address the council will be asked during this section of the agenda if they have an issue to bring to the attention of the council which is not an item on the agenda. By the raising of the hands, the chairman will ask any individual to address the council at this time. Please honor the 3-minute time limit when addressing the council and complete thoughts quickly if noticed while speaking. All testimony given before the council may be recorded. Since the council discussion of an item not posted on the agenda is not allowed, these concerns may be addressed in a future meeting as soon as it is practical under non-action items. For non-action items and action items, the public will be given an opportunity to speak during the discussion of each item. If speakers wish to pass the material to the council, please hand it to the recording secretary for distribution. Legal, political, legislative, claims against the county, campaign, court issues, family law are not appropriate discussions for MAC consideration. So, just a minute. How many people want to address during the public comment? Okay. Barbara, go ahead.
Since everything that was covered during the open discussion is in my own open mic dissertation, I am just going to submit it so everybody can have a copy of it. And it covers pretty much all of the items that we've been discussing. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Barbara.
During this, I'm going to kind of stretch the Brown Act, I guess, a little bit. I'm going to allow two guys more than 3 minutes. So, Chuck, go ahead.
I'll do it in a list.
I doubt that.
Well, no, you try.
I depends upon the question. That's our favorite subject. Our favorite subject. I got a call yesterday from Environmental Health.
Would you speak in the mic?
And I can yell louder than that. How's that? Can you hear that? Yeah. Okay, good. I got a call yesterday from County Environmental Health Services, and the county's biosolid ordinance is on hold because the state is reviewing its regulations. It may not be done until 2019 before we get an ordinance, but that doesn't necessarily mean that environmental health or the county is not going to enforce it. They have to enforce the current rate. But the county cannot implement regulations inconsistent with state law, so that's where they are. The issue involves Class B biosolids, which aren't fully processed. They have some pathogens in them, and the county does not want those brought up here to be recycled on our property, on our land. The state may decide they want to, so that's going to be the issue, and the county has submitted comments on it. The Class A biosolids are totally pathogen-free, but you know, they're bad enough without just all by themselves, so the Class B are a lot worse, and so the county's trying to prohibit them. They have to deal with the state. The issue is going to be which ones go to the landfills and which ones have to be land applied, soil amendments. And Environmental Health Services is still working on the mulch issues and the biosolid deposits. They're working pretty hard on that stuff over at Midway and Lincoln Roads next to, yeah. Poor guy. And the Dallas Road project is still stopped. The county is determining the level of contaminants in it. They're getting lab reports on it. If the lab reports show no pathogens, and if they clean it up a little bit, and all of the other violations are fixed, then that project can continue. And that's the latest on mulch and biosolids. And again, Environmental Health Services is responsible.
You know, Chuck, it sounds to me like that they're pretty much on top of it, you know?
Yeah.
It does. I know we had, Chuck and I and Richard and Woody had a couple of meetings with the guys and gals, and they were like, knew exactly what our issue was, and we're going to take it head on. So
They did, they got on it, and there's another outfit out there, well, I won't mention the name, but
Why not?
that's 15, 20 years, and I think they're on that one too. That's going to be a tough one.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Yes, sir. Steve, how much time do you think you need? The requirements say 3 minutes, but I'm willing to stretch it for you, okay? Because we don't have a lot of public speakers.
I think I can do it in 5 or 6. It's a,
Go for it.
really is a fairly
Three,
simple,
3, 2, 1, go.
it's a pretty simple message. There is a planning commission meeting, very important planning commission meeting next Thursday, May 24, that we...
Take it off.
Take that off my tie. Yes, it is on. Can people hear me?
Yes.
Okay. May 24, next Thursday, Planning Commission meeting. Very important that the people here attend it. We're really making an all-out effort to get as many people from the community as possible. So what's it about? It's about something called Policy 410. I see a lot of faces here that I haven't seen at previous meetings, so I'll just give not a full dissertation on it, but Policy 410 is something that came up last year before the Board of Supervisors as part of the Renewable Energy and Conservation Plan. You see the map over there, and the blue, which is Lucerne Valley Community Plan. Policy 410 would keep all utility scale renewable energy projects. These are these big solar projects that you see where you get the vast fields of solar panels out of that area completely. It would also keep it out of all the other community plan areas. In addition, it would keep it out of areas that are zoned rural living. So it's an important piece of county legislation. Unfortunately, there is also going to be considered next Thursday, May 24, in front of the Planning Commission, what's known as alternative Policy 410. And it is really an alternative in name only, because in essence what it would do is say, okay, developers, come in and put in a community compatibility report, whatever the heck that is, and then you jump that low hurdle, your project gets in. I'm simplifying it, but that really is the essence of it. So one of the things that we're doing is we're putting together a coalition letter that we're going to submit to the Planning Commission, the Board of Supervisors, etc. One of our basic positions is that if alternative Policy 410, as opposed to the good original Policy 410 gets in, that you're going to industrialize this whole area, and that life as we know it is going to be pretty much over. Already they're planning for 10,000 acres of utility scale in North Lucerne Valley up through Barstow. And so, all the beautiful vistas up there, untouched desert land, it's going to be gone. And it's going to be replaced by plumes of dust, noise, access roads, a whole web of transmission buzzing overhead, which in turn is going to encourage more utility scale projects, more transmission. Unfortunately, this stuff begets more of this stuff. So if you say to me, well, okay, I'm going to be busy that day, maybe I could go to Hesperia, or I can go to one of the sites where we can, video remote in. It doesn't make the impact of being there in person. I go to a lot of these meetings, unfortunately, on this issue, and my view is it does tend to get ignored. And what does get their attention, I'm talking about the Planning Commissioner's attention, is to look out and see the community members out there, because that is the one thing that tells them that we're serious about this, and that we're going to fight this, and that it's important to us, and that maybe it's something that they should take a very serious look at. Another thing I need to tell you about alternative Policy 410 is that it is a wholly industry-oriented, I'm being gentlemanly here, a very tainted process. Why is it tainted? Well, it's because none of the community members were involved in this. It was solely the product of the land use people working with the large-scale solar people. That's how this thing came out. Didn't include us at all. And what makes this really outrageous is that I look around and I do see a lot of people here who are involved in the REVEAL process. That's REVEAL. They have all these fancy acronyms. And before it God, what was it? There was the spark process. The whole point of all these things was to get the community's input on what we want in terms of what was going to be in the renewable energy and conservation element. Well, it couldn't have been more clear that nobody wanted utility scale projects in their communities. And there wasn't anybody who said otherwise. So what happened? Well, what happened is in August 2017, the Board of Supervisors got a renewable energy and conservation element that included this policy 410 I mentioned that would exclude utility scale from community plan areas. And really at that point, they didn't have any choice. If they were really going to do a process where they were going to listen to the community and form an element that reflects what the community wants, what else were they going to do? Well, unfortunately, in August 2017, the Board of Supervisors said, well, let's take policy 410 out. And so what happened in the 9 months between then and now? Well, in the 9 months between then and now, Land Use Services met with industry people, the large-scale solar people, and they made a 180-degree turn to the left. So instead of having something reflective of what the community said, which is why we attended all these stupid meetings in the first place over the years, and put in letters, sign petitions, and all that stuff, they go the equal and opposite way. And so they put in this alternative 410 that has things in there like, well, an applicant, a large-scale solar applicant is supposed to come in and educate the community about the benefits of utility-scale solar, as if the people here don't know as much or more than any of these people on the Planning Commission or the Board of Supervisors or the large-scale solar people. They say, well, come in and offer benefits to the local community. And and who knows what that means, but even if they were to come in and say, well, we'll put in a new public library, I doubt they would go that way. When you've got your whole area that's wrecked because you've got the place overrun by utility scale solar, great. Thank you so much for the library. Yeah, and I could go on and on with all the clauses, and I analyzed all that in this coalition letter, which has gone around to a lot of people here already. And if you could, please do get back to us, on signing on. A lot of people have already. Thank you very much. But let me just circle back to the main point, which is that we really do need everybody in this room to show up on May 24, next Thursday at 9 o'clock for this Planning Commission hearing. It is worth taking off the time in the middle of the week. I know we had the discussion about the fees and all that, important stuff, but this is something that is of overarching importance, and I really do see it as a kind of a to be or not to be issue for desert communities, and especially this desert community, because as I said earlier, already there are 10,000 acres, which is, I got out my phone and I calculated it's about 16 square miles of utility scale projects that are being proposed. A lot of them are going to be right on the dry lake, which is about the worst place that you could ever put this. So, because of that, this is not an abstract issue. It's not me painting a parade of horribles. This stuff's right at our doorstep. So I hate to put people on. But let me ask, who thinks they can be there next Thursday? Okay, great. And please also be prepared to speak too. Again, if you're not somebody who's into speaking, you just don't want to do it, show up anyway. But we're going to try to get some bullet points around. I think that the main 2 points are that this whole alternative policy 410, I keep emphasizing that word alternative because the original we like, the alternative we don't. Alternative's probably not a great word for it, but it's one word, so let's go with it. It came out of a tainted process. I could use the word corrupt, but I think I'll just stick with tainted because it did not involve community members. It involved industry only. And the other is that the notion out there among the supervisors seems to be, well, there are some communities who might benefit from this, so we need to take a look at that. We need to make the point that it doesn't benefit this community. And that, why? Because we have experience with utility scale, and it's bad experience. So, you know, people who live near or drive by or have heard about or seen Camp Rock Road and all the problems there, they'd be great things to cite. So that really is the main point I wanted to make, and I think I made it.
I do have one question. Did you, I sent you an email in response to the letter about the new PUC vote, California PUC vote, where they're going to require rooftop solars on every new home and apartment building starting in 2020?
Yeah, and I did include that. It was a good suggestion. I'm sorry I didn't get back to you. Just there's too many
It's okay.
emails.
I haven't checked my email either.
But I did add that in.
Oh, good.
And I think one of the, just to get on that point, the thing that makes this all so ridiculous is that there's this notion that the large-scale people put out, which is that, boy, this state is just voracious. It's got a unending need for renewables energy. It needs new transmission. It needs this and that and the other. It's just the opposite. You know, we pretty much have met or are about to meet all of our renewable energy goals in this state, and they're pretty lofty goals. Another thing is that you look at the Cal ISO, they're the people who run the utility, the transmission system. They're dropping 20 transmission projects because of the dent that renewable energy is making in the need for these big projects. They're scaling down another 21 of transmission projects. So this whole notion that this place, Lucerne Valley, has to be ground zero for us to save the planet and meet the renewable energy goals is just a really false point. And it's the kind of thing that the large-scale solar people get behind so that they have some laurels on their head. But we don't have to buy it, and it's one of the things that we mentioned pretty prominently in that letter, and probably will come up in public comments.
Steve, can I add one thing? This is only one part of a two-part process. The Planning Commission does not make the determination on whether they're going to vote for this or not. This is going to be just a recommendation. They're going to make a recommendation after they hear all the comments and such to the Board of Supervisors, and then that will be the deciding vote. And I can tell you for a fact that your supervisor is on the side of bringing back the original 410. So Steve's right. It makes a lot more impact to get down to the actual rotunda down in the supervisor's rotunda when they're at a meeting and voice your comment. If you absolutely can't, the alternative would be the video conferencing center where you can talk directly to the Planning Commission and the supervisors when the recommendation is made. And this is kind of unusual. We pushed as hard as we could to get this video conference just for people that can't make it down there. But please, if you can go to San Bernardino, do that. I agree 100% with Steve. It has a greater impact. So again, it's just part of one of two parts, so we have to convince them. Now, some of these solar projects that we had in Joshua Tree, we don't have anywhere near the problem you do. We did the same thing, and we were able to beat back 3 different projects. And a lot of it had to do with comment. James does have a partner on the board that is probably on your side. I can't speak for him now, but so all we need is one more vote. There are only 2 of 5. So please get down there and do your due diligence. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments, Mark. The one thing I'd say, though, is that, yes, this isn't the deciding vote. On the other hand, what they present to the Board of Supervisors is going to be very important. So, for instance, if they decide, hey, we don't want original policy 410, it's all going to center on alternative policy 410, then that's not such a good thing. So, I do emphasize, as Mark did, that having people there is very important, and it makes much more of a statement to be there than to be at the video conferencing. Do you have a question?
Yeah, for those of us that are on your mailing list, can you tell us about the Hysteria video conference thing. I'm not familiar with how it works.
Neither am I. I've never done it.
I don't know where it is.
I can tell you when I get my chance.
I'd rather have you come, but anyway.
Jerry Lewis Government Center in Hesperia, 7th Street and Smoke Tree. You walk in the door and ask the guy in there, where's the video conference, and he'll point you upstairs.
Yeah.
They can sign in if you want to speak.
Then you'll go sit in front, when it's your turn to speak, you will sit in front of a camera,
Right.
and it'll be a live feed down to San Bernardino.
So it's just really easy. Really easy.
That's how it goes.
Okay.
Does anybody have any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Steve,
it,
I
Roger.
appreciate that. Okay, any other public comments? Yes, sir.
Okay. Same subject. I just don't know as much as he does. Is this coming across? I turned it off, Bill. Now it's on. Okay. So I agree with him. We need to go this time. I have not been going. I've been going to the Hesperia video conference for 4 times recently just to get this on the agenda of the Planning Commission. Now it's here, and the sheet that's going around, it's people planning to attend the County Planning Commission hearing in San Bernardino on Thursday, May 24th at 9 a.m. And then your name, phone number, email address would be real helpful if you have one. And then drive south or carpool. And we're going to try to carpool so anyone who doesn't want to drive or can't drive down will get a ride. And 2 of you have already agreed to go with me. We'll leave at 7 a.m. Thursday morning from the box fence area at the store. And please fill it in if you will come, because I'll keep in touch with you, especially with email address, but I'd do a phone if I have to give you the latest and to give you these suggested points that he was just talking about. It would really be helpful even if you just say one sentence, which would be, please, no on the alternative, and you'll get this in the email, no on the alternative 4.10, yes on the original 4.10, and then it'll give you reasons if you want to say any more. But even if you're shy, you can just sit there and read that little simple statement, because otherwise, if we get a bunch of us there, which we need to do, just imagine you're on the commission and you're looking out there and you say, well, they're either for something or they're against something, but we don't know why they're here. And if we just fill out our little cards, shy as you may be, and I don't like speaking in front of crowds, it'll count much more. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Okay. Okay, we've got to get moving on here. It's already almost 6:20, so we're going to skip the guest speaker, what I was going to talk about tonight. We'll skip that because the meeting's running kind of late. Let's move on to the reports. So San Bernardino County Sheriff, Sergeant, come on up. Thank you for your patience, by the way.
You're welcome. Waited so long, my battery went dead. All right, this report is for April 1st through April 30th. Our calls for service in the county area of Apple Valley were 481, and our reports taken for the same area was 48. And also for the Lucerne Valley area, we had 573 calls for service, and reports drawn was 53. One other thing I wanted to mention tonight was that the sheriff's website has been updated over the last month. So if you haven't been there to look at the new format, it's very user-friendly and it has a lot of new features to it, including all the media access. You can look at all the press releases that have been put out, You can also look up calls for service in a general area, so you can put in Lucerne Valley, and it'll show you all the calls for service for the area. Any questions?
It seems with your calls, that you make about 10% reports, is that correct? Like you have 500 calls and you do about 50 reports.
Usually, and it'll vary, it depends on,
And that's just
What
going out
calls
to
for
check
service.
out what they're calling in for and then up to you if it
yeah.
has a report. Okay.
Yes, sir.
A while back, I have a question on this medical use option going on. And I think you said there's only like 6 or 12 plants allowed in a single residence with a 5-acre plot or whatever. And is that true?
Yes. The county code only allows, actually state law only allows 6 plants per person, and that's budding plants. You can have 12 plants total, as long as only 6 of those are budding. Once the 7th one buds, you got to get rid of one that's budding.
Yeah. Well,
So
what I'm thinking about-
you gotta trim the
I
buds.
live way out in the sticks,
Yes.
and you can drive by these roads and you can smell the whole thing growing. And is there, do they have special things that they special, what special permits that they can have to grow this?
No, sir. Not in county areas. You can only grow indoors. And there are no permits issued by the county for growing marijuana.
Okay, you guys.
Yes, sir.
They're everywhere, but you don't see them?
Oh, we see them. We just don't have the manpower to handle all of them. You're talking an area that we cover, just our station covers from Bessemer Mine Road all the way to LA County line. So for us to cover it, it's difficult. When we get the information from the public, or if we see grows locally, we contact our narcotics division. So when they get time to come hit these places, they do. But because they cover the entire county, they have less manpower than we do. So they hit what they can, and they try to hit as many on one day that they can. So if they have 5 or 6 to hit in a day, they'll do it. But it all depends on how they schedule the areas they're going to.
Yeah, this has been going over the months and years that I've seen. And
Yes.
I'm not, I go over to Antelope and I put up 20,000 square foot steel buildings just for that. You know, and I see a lot of little things, half the size of a football field or a basketball field, growing out there, and I'm like scratching my head, and I'm not gonna turn it.
Yeah, the people that are growing the county area, they're just avoiding paying the city all the fees that those folks are paying to grow in the city that allows it.
Can I make one comment on that?
Sure.
Just to reinforce, I don't know if you're for or against it or not, but I'm in an area where I see the narcotics force stage on a regular basis to go out and do this. So it's a big deal. It takes a lot of planning to do this, but if it's reported in your area, they will get to it.
It can be reported anonymously too, they don't. You know, all
Yeah,
that.
that's correct. You call WeTip and make a report if you'd like to bring that anonymous. Yes, ma'am.
Do you know what happened to the Rock House across from Cadillac Antiques?
I do not, I noticed
It
that
was a big
it's
road.
vacant and now
Yeah.
there's doors missing,
They
windows
stripped
missing.
the whole thing,
So it's
yeah.
gone. What I've been having the deputy do since I've been out here is anytime they get information on where there's marijuana growing, they'll go knock on the door, just to let them know we're aware they're there.
Oh,
That tends to make a lot of people scared because they know once the local guys know that our narcotics division is on their way sometime in the near future. So they'll just pull up their plants and go somewhere else. Whether they stay in the area, we don't know.
yeah.
But they definitely try, we try to deter that action going on.
Okay. Everyone was asking. They did have a big grow, but they harvested. And
Yeah,
I didn't know
they
if they
did.
got busted, maybe the feds took over their house and they had to move, or,
No, yeah, I don't know why they left,
Yeah.
but, yeah.
it's just.
Our
weird it was
narcotics
so
division
strict.
didn't make it to the house before they cultivated everything and were able to process it. Unfortunately, because they had too many deals.
All right, well, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Nobody from county fire or Cal Fire?
Nope.
Okay. Mark, we'll go on to the third district report. Go ahead, Mark.
Pretty much covered.
Use your mind.
I rely on Chuck to cover everything that I've got on EHS, and I was going to talk about 4.10, and I'm glad Steve was here tonight to talk about it, how important it was to get down there. Also, sometimes I don't have a lot to report, but I take a lot of your stuff back to the county, to our chief of staff or the supervisor. So tonight's comments on what's happening here at the community center, I'll take these back and start working on them for you if you'll do the other half and get something to Roger as far as a resolution. Okay, that's about it. Thank you.
I've got a question. When you do a resolution, it gets submitted to the supervisor's office. To me, the experience I had being 10 years in the MAC, that was usually the end of the road. I never, or very seldom, did I ever see follow-up come back from any supervisor's office, and I was on the MAC through 4 of them, so there was never any feedback and follow-up. Now, are you seeing any feedback and follow-up on resolutions and issues that you, or recommendations that you forward to the supervisor's office?
The only one that I know of was Visalia, the park on Visalia. That's the only feedback we ever got. And that's kind of the reason why I wanted to have that discussion, but we're running out of time tonight. So we'll shelve that for later, but. Yeah, Mark, we don't ever get feedback. I don't even know if the supervisor ever reads them. I don't know if Molly ever reads them.
Well, we can't force the supervisors to read them, but there is case law telling us that they have to be given to the supervisors. They go to the clerk of the board, and the clerk of the board distributes them to each supervisor's office. Now, if you want feedback, the one from your supervisor, absolutely, I can get you that. And most of the time, the resolutions that you send in, I'd say 95% of the time, he'll agree with them. So if you want feedback from him personally, yes. The other ones we can't force. Whether he can do that and ask them what their opinion is, yes. But
Well, my main concern is
they do go to all 5 supervisors.
Okay. My main concern is, of course, what James Ramos' opinion is, because he's supposed to represent us. So it'd be nice to know, because if he didn't like something, well, tell me why, and then maybe we can adjust or come up with more reasons why he should agree with us. You know what I mean? We we don't even get a.
Yeah, if you disagree with anything you said, I'd hear about it. I haven't heard a thing. So, okay, I understand that. I will put that forward and see if we can't get some replies. And just to be fair, I'm the chair of the Morongo Basin MAC, and we do the same thing. We make resolutions, send them in, and sometimes we hear back from our supervisor, and sometimes the problems are cured before the action has to be taken. But I'll look into that. It's a good question, and I've run into the same issue. So.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Richard. That's something that's been kind of under my craw for a while. Yes, sir.
I wanted to say something about the mulch thing. You went right over to the solar thing, which is very important too. But I wanted to say something about the mulch thing. I got to say thank you to Chuck Dell and the guys that helped him to stop that temporarily. It sounds like it's only a temporary fix, but when I drive from here to the Interstate 15, I count 14 trucks coming in, and in a 40-minute time, I'm nearly guessing 75 trucks a day coming into Lucerne Valley to dump this mulch. And Chuck and those guys have only stopped the sleeping giant, because I feel that it's a racket and it goes all the way to the top, to the state. They're looking for a place to dump it, to and it's really going to be an issue, and it won't be an issue to us right now. We'll probably all be gone. But at any rate, for our future, Lucerne Valley, at 75 truckloads a day, Lucerne Valley is not going to be beautiful in the future. That's what I feel. And they say that it's for mulch, and we don't have enough water to plant trees. It's just a dumping ground, I feel. Is there anything we can do about it?
Okay, you're done with your, okay, thanks. Okay, Land Use Committee, well, we don't have anything currently on the books, although we probably will coming up here real quick, so. Gene, Cemetery Committee? Okay. Any correspondence? Well, I have some correspondence, but I moved it to a non-action item. I don't know if any of you are aware of this. I don't see how it affects Lucerne Valley, but Southern California Edison is proposing a new project, and it's called they're looking for a permit to construct for the El Dorado Lugo Mojave Series capacitor project. I tried to find out exactly what that is, but I think it's big transformers is what I think it is. But none of it's affecting in Lucerne Valley other than the fact that they need to build a, what do they call it, fiber optic repeater. So, and it's going to be right, it looks like it'll probably be right in that proposed substation that they want to do on 247 up here past Haynes Road. And all that would probably be a small building, kind of like no bigger than probably one of these buildings for the cell towers, but it would be fiber optic lines coming in and fiber optic lines going out. So I don't really think that's an issue for Lucerne Valley. Did you get this, Chuck, or anything? Have you seen this?
Yeah, I got a copy. And Edison told us about this about a year ago. And the whole idea is to be able to do some upgrades of existing transmission lines from the Colorado River down through LA to pick up more renewable energy from Wyoming and Montana. And what it's going to involve for us is they're going to extend some towers probably on both sides of Barstow Road. You probably wouldn't even notice the difference, but they're going to extend the height and put in more wires and plus the communication lines. Other than that, I don't think there's going to be much of an impact. What it does, it actually should technically relieve us of having to provide more renewable energy.
That's what I thought.
That's the whole idea, is to pick up more from the upper states. And I wouldn't worry about that one. There's too much other stuff to worry about.
Yeah, right. I just wanted to bring it to the community's attention. So.
Thank you, Roger. The only thing is, if they put it right where that calcite substation is planned, then it's another one of their, well, we already have something there, so we're just going to add to it.
Yes and no. We're talking about something, probably, no, they didn't give me any plans or anything, but fiber optics, to make a booster station for fiber optics is not going to take up but a closet. There's not much to that, so I really don't think that that's going to be a big issue. The bigger issue or not, if we can, somehow we've got to really stop the Dry Lake project. If that one can be killed, it'll probably kill the substation. Because I don't know if the other ones up there could, if that substation could afford to support them or not. I don't know. So, okay, well that's another whole topic that we've already talked about. So, any council members have any requests or reports?
Hello. Did you want us to try to do the slideshow presentation for Scenic 247 next month?
Yes, that'd be nice. I emailed you back on that. So,
Did you?
Let's try that for next month.
All right. I don't know exactly how much time it will take, but we're going to be doing it at the HVCC and at La Vida. So by the time, I should be able to time it a little bit, but it shouldn't be more than about 20 minutes or so, depending on how much people want to talk about it.
Yeah, we'll put it under the guest speakers,
And that's a 30-minute generally 30. But
Okay.
if you think it's, if you're telling me it's going to run to 40, let me know. We'll just
Okay.
change the time in here. It's just approximate anyway, kind of like a budget. Is there anything else from the council? Okay, with that, I think we'll go ahead and adjourn at, it looks like it's about, what?
It says your next meeting is June 17th.